everyone. I'm Arvind from Untitled Jammu. I'm the organizer of GDG Jammu. So today we are here for the IoT event. So, as you know, Google I/O is an annual developer conference, and the main motive behind the IO is innovations of open. It is an annual developer conference, and the main motive of the IO is to collaborate the developers around the world and know about the latest technology from Google. So I'm going to welcome Rajna Chakravarti. She is a software developer intern at Google. So I have a mini session in the Sunshine GDG Jammu program, and I have done many things from. So let's welcome Rajna Chakravarti. Over to you, Rajna. Hello, hi, Rajna, how are you? Over to you. If you are sitting at
I spoke about the name before, Charles Babbage, father of the modern computer. So let me tell you a little bit about the computer that he was working on. It was called the analytical engine. And what this analytical engine would do is it could compute if-then sentences and store things in its memory. So these are basic requirements, and that's all it could do. But Charles Babbage intended this analytical engine to be a sort of a gadget only for mathematical. Ada Lovelace was introduced to Charles Babbage when she was 17. She
She created compilers. She invented linkers. She created a programming language called Flowmatic, which led to COBOL. Now, COBOL is the first programming language to use English words. And we know that's important because without that, it would have been much more difficult for people to program today. She coined the term bug. So this is a very famous story. Um, there was a moth stuck in the processing unit of a computer, and people could not understand what went wrong. Why wasn't the computer working? But Grace Hopper, she found the bug, and that's how the whole term was coined. That's a bug, something, an unexpected behavior, something that's not working. And that's a term that we still use today. She wrote a 500-page manual to computer programming. Unfortunately, she was not credited for it. So let's talk a little bit more about how this situation happened. So 1984 is actually the year when we had 50-50 gender in computer science. Prior to 1984, computer science was a woman-dominated field. And post 1984, we had a steady decline in the numbers of the women, and it became a male-dominated field. So, how did that happen? So, people did some introspection, they did some research, and they realized that the reason for this was the introduction of personal computers. Now, let me explain that a little bit more. Before the invention of personal computers, a computer was a massive machine that you could only find in a research lab. It's not something that you see everywhere, it's not something that you would come across very often. And so the people who studied computers, the people who studied computer science, they were introduced to computers only during their course of their degree or only while they were working in a lab. And before that, they had no prior exposure to a computer. But now we have invented personal computers, which means they are small enough, they are cheap enough, they are available enough to be in people's homes. And now that we have personal computers at home, people have prior experience to computers. They have been tinkering about on these machines. They have been learning little bit about programming on their own. And they realized that the people who had the prior exposure before starting their degree were mostly boys. And the reason for that being that boys were much more likely to be gifted a computer than girls. They were much more likely to work with their fathers and learn about programming than girls. And as a result, men received more exposure than women. They're no longer on an equal footing. So when they started their degree in computer science, they saw that the men in the room already had spent several hours studying about computers, whereas the women had close to no clue. And that started to bring this divide. That started to make make the women more uncomfortable in being in this field and started making them feel like they don't belong there. So in the 1920s, I want to give a shout out to another amazing algorithmic invention, discovery, something that we still use today. That's the zero check. And that was also by a woman, Mary Clem. So we also owe a lot of cryptography to the women in CS because the early computers, the women, they mainly worked on cryptography. They worked during the war. So their work was a lot of code breaking. So if you've watched um, The Imitation Game, that's a very famous movie. It shows the Bletchley National Park. Now, one thing in that movie that I didn't notice is they didn't show that many women. Keira Knightley was the only woman playing. However, in reality, there were a lot more women. Actually, they did show. They showed the women doing clerical tasks, which is very accurate. They were the computers. Computers were doing clerical tasks. So, one such woman working with Alan Turing is Joan Clark, and she is a cryptographer. Now, she developed a method of increasing the speed of double encrypted messages, which was extremely increasing the speed of decrypting double encrypted messages, which was extremely useful during the war. But the decryption technique was not named after her. However, her contemporaries, who were men, um, their techniques were mostly credited to their name. Like you mostly have an algorithm in their name, but the algorithm that she found out, it was never credited to her. So someone even coined this term "one kilo girl" of energy. It was termed as 1,000 hours of computing labor. And tedious computing was known as women's work because it was below the level of expertise of the men. The men were supposed to work on the hardware, the women were supposed to work on the software. And software was seen as just not that important. It's clerical work. You just sit and do these long calculations mentally. So, NACA is actually the previous name of NASA. Um, it's not just women who had a hard time, but if you were a black woman, you would have an even harder time. So NSCA employed a lot of these women as computers. And but the thing is, they segregated the black and the white women. And black women were asked to redo college courses that they had already done, and they never received promotions. So it was even harder if you were a part of an intersectional minority. Now, I want to tell you about one of the biggest contributions of women in this field. And I'm not, yes, Ada Lovelace, Grace Hopper, their contributions are massive, but they are also names that we are more familiar with. Let me tell you about 1944, the ENIAC computer. ENIAC is one of the first programmable electronic general purpose digital computers, which means ENIAC is one of the first steps that we took to bringing personal computers to everyone's homes. And the first programmers in ENIAC were women. They were all women chosen from the army. And there were 6 women programmers, but they could not be promoted into professional ratings. That was only for men. So the men worked on the hardware and the women worked on the software. And because women worked on the software, it involved writing the code, it involved working on optimization techniques, it involved resolving bugs. Um, because of that, the women ended up being familiar with both the software side, the application side, as well as the hardware side. So they understood, as well as any other engineer on the team. Anyone who's working on hardware, the women also knew that work. Um, one of these women, Betty Snyder, she actually, so the women had to work with a lot of bugs, right? So they had to think of a lot of debugging. And Betty Snyder, she came up with the concept of a breakpoint. The fact that you need to pause and reassess the situation somewhere in the middle of the code, right after you do something. She came up with that concept during her debugging days. And that concept is still widely used today while we're debugging. But unfortunately, the ENIAC 6 were not mentioned by the Army, not introduced, not even mentioned when they were telling the world about their achievements on this computer. So let's talk about another woman that I really admire, Margaret Hamilton. This picture is actually really famous. I think it went viral. This is Margaret Hamilton standing in front of the code that she wrote. And this is the code that sent us to the moon, the Apollo project. So she programmed the software for Apollo computers, the computers that sent us to the moon. And this was a very tedious task because this code back then, code was hardwired by threading copper wire through magnetic rings. And that work is very tedious. It's not typing on a computer. You actually have to thread the wire through these rings. And that's why the people who did this were known as seamstress or little old ladies. And because the reason why they were called these terms is because they were mostly women. And as you can see, it's not a very flattering term either. Sister Mary Kenneth Keller is the first woman to earn a PhD in computer science. Let's look at a few more first. Carol Shaw, the first female game designer. Frances Allen, the first woman to be an IBM fellow, as well as the first woman to receive a Turing Award. She worked on parallelization, she worked on optimization techniques, and she worked on optimization of compilers. So these were some of the names of the women that I find inspiring. And some of the names that you might have heard, some of the names that you might not have heard. But the reason why I had these slides, the reason why I showed you these pictures, I told you about these names, is because somewhere over the last few decades, we have forgotten the origins of CS. And it has reached a point where there are girls out there thinking that we don't belong. What am I doing here? I'm not welcome. But the reason why I wanted to show you these faces is because I want you to reassure yourself that not only do you belong, you have always belonged. And if there is anyone trying to push you out, then please understand that women and computers go hand in hand. Women were computers. Not only were women involved in the origin of computer science, but women were the origin of computers. And that is all I want you to remember. And if you can remember that much, then the purpose of what I said today has been successful. So that's it from me. And thank you for listening to me.
Hello. 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 Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Abhinandan, I can hear you.
Thank you, Sanjana, for the inspiration talk. I hope women from Jammu will also do something in the field of CS. Let's welcome our next speaker, Anwar Singh. He's working in AI. So, over to you, Anwar.
Sure. Thank you, Abhinandan. Just sharing my slides in a minute. Great. You can see my slides, right? Yeah. Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Anubhav. I will be talking about audio AI, what, why, and how. Very quickly, how many of you have heard of or ever tried before working with AI in general, machine learning or deep learning with audio? Has anyone tried working with audio before using ML or deep learning? No one? Interesting. Do you all have any experience of using voice AI? Have you ever seen anywhere an application of audio AI? No one. Abhinandan, can they hear me? Okay, interesting. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, okay. In that case, let's start with a simpler question. Has anyone ever tried working with machine learning?
यहाँ पे है कोई जिसने मशीन लर्निंग में काम किया हो
No one.
रिपोर्ट किया हो
Okay,
उसका
there's one.
शैडो एंड जैसे कर सकते हैं आप
Anyone else who has tried working with machine learning before? Anything that you might have built, maybe a classifier, maybe a regressor. Interesting. Looks like most of you are interested in other technologies. Anyway, let me try making you interested in audio AI. Right. Very quickly, this is me. I have my own startup. I wrote a few books, and yeah, these are the organizations I'm associated with. One of them being GDG Cloud Kolkata. Okay, so why the topic, right? Why am I going to talk about audio AI specifically, right? Why not just AI or any other generic machine learning topic? Why did I choose audio AI? Because communication is very important, right? The interaction between you and me right now, it's happening in the form of first being visual communication. I can see you, you can see me, and the audio, right? Whatever I'm speaking is reaching to you. That is verbal communication. And audio is super important because right now, if you were looking just at my video and not, being able to hear my audio, you would understand nothing, right? And that is why there has been a very strong effort to make audio communication better, right? For example, this Meet software that we are using, this is also an attempt to make it easier for us to send our audio to different places, right? Whenever we call someone, why is telephone such a race? Why does everyone have a telephone today? Because communication is important, and the most important form of communication is verbal communication, and that is not just me saying, right? Uh, if you search for most used form of communication, you will find that verbal communication is the one, right? Every day you talk to people for almost the entire amount of time that you're awake. Maybe 50% of it you spend talking to someone or the other, right? In some form or the other. And verbal communication is the one which you use the most, right? If you have people in the house, if you have roommates in your hostel or maybe wherever you're staying, so you would most likely be using verbal communication to talk to them. You don't just text this person in the same room, right? If you have a roommate in the same house, maybe you don't text them for everything. You just shout, hey, come here, get this thing done, right? So verbal communication is the most used, and sound can actually do a lot, right? If you have seen voice assistants, all of you must be having a phone with you, right? You might be having Android assistant, or you would be having Siri or any other voice assistant that you are favorable of. You must be having it on your phone. And what is it doing, right? Voice assistants, all of them are able to understand what you're saying and use that to do something and finally generate an output, right? If you have used Alexa, how many of you have Alexa at your home? Does anyone have Alexa at their home? Alexa, Google Home, a couple of you. Have you heard the voice that it has, right? It has a very realistic voice, right? And that is made possible only by AI, right? That's not something in which you say, for example, the things that I'm speaking, you don't just cut it down into short clips, join them together, and get my voice again, right? It won't happen. To generate such realistic voice, you need to use AI. And somewhere out there at Alexa's office, there are tons of machine learning engineers sitting right now, just trying to figure out how to use AI to build better voices, right? And then there's voice activated smart homes. Any one of you have a bulb at your home which you can just light up using your voice? Just say, bedroom light turn on or something like that. Because there are lights available on in the market, right? If you see Amazon or any other online shopping site, you can actually buy such bulbs. You can buy such switches. Such there's also this plug, right? So this you can buy this plug board, which you can put in your normal socket, and you will be able to control it with your voice. So you could just have your say your washing machine connected to it, and at any point of time you could just say, turn on the washing machine, and it will actually turn on your washing machine for you, right? You don't even have to get up from your bed, and that is how smart voice activated homes work. Then there's voice identification. Has anyone used voice identification before? You might have seen there are certain applications, although not easily found today, maybe later on, but there are apps which which recognize your voice and they use it for authentication. Right, this is one of the forms of biometric authentication in which your voice is recognized. Right, every person has a certain unique element in their voice. No two people have the same voice, right? So that's why we have used voice identification, although not very highly used. Not a lot of apps use it because there is still some lack of technology to make it 100% foolproof. But then, yeah, people are trying this. Also, if you remember this scene from Squid Game, yeah, sound can do a lot, right? Just make one sound and you're gone. Anyway, some key terms. Yeah, a lot of terms actually around audio AI, right? And not just audio AI. In fact, if you're learning any new technology, there's going to be a number of terms, and you need to make sure you understand the basics. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through them, the very basics of audio AI, and I'll hope that you will connect to it. Um, yeah, before I do that, I want to ask you, right? Is it voice recognition or is it speech recognition? Which one is correct? Right, you have seen assistants on your phone. You have used Google Assistant or Siri or Alexa. uh, what do you think they do they do voice recognition or do they do speech recognition? uh, those who vote for voice recognition, just raise your hand. Those who think it's voice recognition, I have one supporter, two. Okay, okay, there are two people supporting voice recognition. Yeah, voice recognition is a very popular term. I'm not sure why people don't agree to it, but okay, speech recognition, guys. Who supports speech recognition? Okay, there are two people up front, no one in the back. The backbenchers have decided to stay neutral. Okay, that's great. Yeah, neutrality is the best option, guys. It is actually speech recognition. The front benchers have got it right again. Okay, so these are the basic terms. There's sound. Sound is any audible waveform generated mechanically, right? So if right now, okay, if right now you take the nearest object to you, maybe your phone or your laptop, and you bang it on the wall, the noise that comes is called sound. Okay? And then what is audio? Any form, any audible waveform generated using, generated or uses electronical equipments or generated electronically, right? What you're hearing from me right now is audio. It's not sound, right? When I'm speaking to you over Google Meet and you're listening to me over a speaker, it is audio. It is not called just sound. Sound is generated mechanically, right? There's a difference. And then if you come to voice, any sound produced by human vocal cords, and then there's speech recognition, voice that can be identified into meaningful words. Now, there's a very slight difference between these. I'll explain to you, right? And I will, I'll give you a chance to anyone in the audience who wants to explain this, right? Can you explain to me with an example the difference between voice and speech? Anyone who wants to try this? The difference between voice and speech? No one? Okay, if I told you a very nice joke right now, imagine I told you a very nice joke right now, and you laughed, right? Some of you are actually laughing. I can see. Right? So when you are laughing, the sound that you are making, that is actually just voice. It is not speech, because I can't just put your laughing sound into a speech recognition software and generate ha 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 with it, right? It's not always ha ha. Ha. Some of you like he as well, right? So voice is anything produced by a human vocal cord. When I say ah, right, it can probably be taken into double A, but that does not mean anything. I'm just making some sounds, right? What is that? That is voice. And when I say speech, speech is what you understand from what I'm saying, right? The words that I'm saying to you right now, you're understanding them. That is speech, right? So if a baby is crying, a baby is making voice. Baby is crying in his voice. He's not doing speech. But when a person is saying something, that is speech, right? And now you can answer this question again, if it is voice recognition or speech recognition. So when Alexa or Siri tries to understand what you are saying, it is speech recognition. And when there are softwares which try to recognize if you're snoring while sleeping, right? If you search your Android app store right now, you will find there are apps which try to recognize whether you are snoring or not. That is voice recognition. That is not speech recognition, right? So keep this difference in mind, because this will be very useful to you when you are working with audio. Okay, some general technical terms for working with audio. These were the generic terms which we should all know in daily lives. But these ones are specific for people who are going to work technically with audio, right? So there's machine listening, there's computer music, there's auditory scene analysis, and music information retrieval. I will give you all a chance to tell me an example of this, right? Give me a minute. Yeah. Machine listening. Have you ever seen any example of machine listening? Mimicking human signal processing by computers. What does this mean? What is human signal processing? Do you have a signal processor machine in your body? Does anyone have any kind of machine with them which can process signals? Your ear, right? Your ear is a machine which is continuously processing signals. Right? Whatever I'm saying, whatever you are listening and understanding is only possible because your ear is doing that, right? So when I talk about machine listening, a machine listening software or a hardware, in fact, what would it do? It would try to mimic the functions of an ear, right? So when you think about Alexa or Siri, when you are saying something to them, the fact that they are listening to it and they are able to convert it to text and whatever later on, the process where they are actually listening to your audio, it is called machine listening, right? Computer music, there's a lot of music being composed by computers. If you have heard of auto tune softwares, there are a lot of singers who are accused of that, but otherwise there's also a lot of softwares which are using AI to generate music. If you just go to your Google search and just type in audio uh, AI music generator or something, you'll find a lot of examples for computer music. again, auditory scene analysis, breaking down audio into sources, right? Auditory scene analysis. What would you mean by this? Say, for example, you are listening to an orchestra, right? And in that orchestra, there is some person playing the drums. There is someone who is playing the guitar. There is someone who is singing, right? Our ears are very clearly able to tell who is doing what, right? Just looking at them, you can, or even if you're not looking at them, right? You close your eyes, you listen to it, and then you are able to understand that yes, there's a drum playing, there's a guitar playing, there's a person singing, right? But this is very difficult for a computer because a computer, first of all, is not looking at the scene, and that is making it difficult. And the other is it's getting the audio in the format of just zeros and ones, right? How can it tell like whether a guitar is being played or a piano is being played or a drum is being played or is someone singing, right? So the software which does this, the process is called auditory scene analysis. And then there's music information retrieval. These are the four major uses of audio AI today. Music information retrieval. Does anyone have any example of where they have seen this? Where have you seen an example of music information retrieval? How many Spotify users do we have here? Spotify use kara hai? Just one. There's someone in the back. Spotify, bade log. Okay. Yeah, three of them. Last bench, very nice. Yeah, I see rich people sitting on this side of the audience. Anyway, Spotify. Okay, YouTube, music. YouTube. Anyone? YouTube use करा है किसी ने? अच्छा, किसने नहीं use करा है YouTube? How many of you have not used YouTube? Oh, there's some. Oh, there's no one. There's some people. Okay, yeah, everyone has used YouTube, right? So there are a lot of videos you have seen on YouTube, right? A lot of videos on YouTube do not have any video as such, right? उसमें कोई वीडियो खास होता नहीं है, just गाने होते हैं. And then when you open that video, आपके साइड में आ जाता है suggestions, right? साइड में suggestions आ जाता है. How is that happening? उसमें कोई वीडियो तो है नहीं. How are they suggesting you music based on what you are listening to right now? That is done by extracting the features of the music you are listening to and suggesting based on that similar other music sources, right? So for example, if you are listening to rock, they will most likely suggest you songs which are rock, right? अगर आप कैलाश खेर को सुन रहे हो, then they will not suggest you Freddie Mercury. Or else if you are listening to say what's his name? I'm forgetting. A.R. Rahman, right? If you are listening to A.R. Rahman, they are not likely to suggest to you, say, Honey Singh or Badshah, right? That's not happening. When you are listening to Punjabi songs, they will suggest you those songs because unki beat match ho rahi hai. They are retrieving the feature from that music and they are saying that these two are very similar. So if a person is listening to say Honey Singh, they are very likely to listen to Badshah as well, right? So this is how music information retrieval is working, and all of us are using it on a daily basis. Okay, the next part. Yeah, this is a bit more technical. How many electronics and communication engineering do we have? Like students, do we have here? Electronics and communication engineering, or else like just communication, or electronics, or electrical. No one? All of you are from computer science background. Okay, that's great. You are not going to understand this very easily, but let's try, right? Digital signal processing. Okay, if it helps, even I'm an IT student, right? I was an IT student. Yeah, so these terms were actually new to me when I started working with audio, and you too can very easily deal with them, right? So digital signal processing, analyzing, modifying, and synthesizing digital signals. What are digital signals? The signals that my laptop is sending to the laptop which you have at your location right now. That is a digital signal, right? Do you understand the basic difference between digital and analog? Okay, I'm assuming that all of you do understand the difference between analog and digital. So digital signals are the ones which are transmitted electronically in the form of data, just bytes, zeros and ones. And audio processing is a subfield of digital signal processing, which deals with electronic sound. So right now, if you are able to hear me without noise, because there's a lot of noise in my surroundings, which my laptop's microphone is canceling, right? So my laptop's microphone, it is actually performing audio processing to remove noise from my environment. And at the same time, if you're able to listen to me on your side, and if you speak something and I listen to you without noise, that is again an application of audio processing, right? And then finally, we have speech processing, which is again a subfield of audio processing, which deals only with speech, right? And Google Meet does that. Google Meet prioritizes the speech sounds over any other sound, right? Right now, if I'm speaking to you, and if there was, if I were to take a tong and hit it on my table, that noise would likely be cancelled out. Although I am the one producing it, I'm actually the subject in this scenario, and if I produce that sound, that sound will be cancelled over my speech. That is because Google Meet is doing speech processing to give a preference to my voice, right? And the same thing happens on your AI canceling headphones. If you have heard of the AI cancellation, of AirPods, Apple AirPods. So all they are doing is they are just doing speech processing for you, right? They are not doing anything else. Speech processing and audio processing, because when you are listening to music, they are canceling the audio. Okay, now coming to specific key terms for audio AI, and there's a very long list, right? There's bitrate, there's channel, spectrogram, blah blah blah. There's a lot of topics here, and I'm not going to explain all of them. I'm just going to talk about a few of them, which are going to be most crucial when you are entering audio AI. And some of these terms you have actually studied during your class 11, 12, right? I hope all of you here are in college right now. Is there anyone who is still in class 12 or below? No? Okay, great. So you must have heard of these, some of these terms, right? Bitrate, right? What is bitrate? So when you have an audio signal, uh, how many ups and downs do you have in a single second? That is your bitrate, right? In computer terms, bitrate is a bit different, right? What I talked about was just now was frequency. When you talk about the same thing in computer terms, that is bitrate. How many bits do you have in a single second? That is your bitrate. Have you ever seen bitrate? Right? If you look at the MP3 files that you downloaded, I hope all of you have downloaded MP3 files in your childhood, right? When you were 9, 10, 11, or 12, you used to download MP3 files of songs from different websites, right? And when you used to download them, there used to be different in sizes. एक ही गाने का बहुत सारा साइज रहता था, राइट? एक ही गाना आपको मिल रहा है 5 MB में, वही सेम गाना मिल रहा है 10 MB में. ये कैसे हो रहा है? बिकॉज उसका बिट रेट डिफरेंट है, right? 128 kbps, 256 kbps, right? So that is the bit rate per second, right? Bit rate, yeah, not kbps. Sorry, I think it was just hertz. Sorry, yeah, hertz, right? So bit rate is measured in hertz because it's actually a digital form of frequency. So you must have seen, right? वहाँ पे लिख के आता है 44 kilohertz or it's 22 kilohertz, 256 kilohertz. So those are just bit rates. How much information is contained in a single second, राइट? ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है इन द टर्म्स ऑफ म्यूजिक, बिकॉज म्यूजिक में जितना ज़्यादा बिट रेट होगा उतना ज़्यादा कैप्चर होगा कितना वहाँ पे म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है, राइट? से इफ यू हैव 1000 इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, then it's not possible to identify them using a bit rate of say 8 kilohertz. 8 kilohertz, by the way, is the bit rate which plays on your phone. जब आप फोन पे किसी से बात करते हो तो 8 kilohertz में आपका ऑडियो जाता है, राइट? Then there's channel, there's spectrogram. If you have experimented with channels, right? So there's one channel, two channel. That actually just defines how many different sources you are getting the audio from. Then there's spectrogram, which is actually an image conversion, right? जब आप audio को image में convert कर देते हो, that becomes a spectrogram, right? There are some functions which are used to do that, but आप किसी भी audio को image के form में return करते हो, that is a spectrogram. And then mel spectrogram is just an additional function over it, which is again used to generate an image. There's speaker embedding, sampling frequency, hop size, timbre. Okay, timbre is actually the specific tone of your voice, right? That is called timbre. A lot of you here will have different voices, and you will be able to recognize each other just by listening to the timbre of their voice, right? And वो किस टोन में बात करते हैं, उनका बोलने का जो exact जो voice आता है ना, that is called timbre. Then there's FFT. You must have heard of this fast Fourier transform. That is something which Fourier transform is something we studied in class 12, I guess. And then there's STFT, which is another form of Fourier transform used in audio. There's PCM, pulse code modulation, MFCC. MFCC is one of the most important topics. We will talk about this later as well, and that is when I'll explain it. There's noise. Noise we all understand. जो से शोर मचाना start कर दो, that is noise. Um, WER. WER is a very important metric. Uh, so what do you understand by a metric? Anyone who understands what a metric is? Yeah, maybe you do, but you would have forgot. Metric is a unit of measurement for measuring anything, right? So in this term, WER is a metric called word error rate, which is used to measure the rate of error in a speech recognition program, right? अगर आप 10 words बोलते हो और उसमें से 8 words सही से recognize होते हैं और 2 word गलत होते हैं, then your word error rate is what? It's 20%, right? And then there's window size, how much audio you process in one time. Waveform is a wave, ये हमने सबने पढ़ा है. और मैं ज़्यादा डेप्थ में एक्सप्लेन करने नहीं वाला हूँ इसको, बिकॉज इट्स एक्चुअली अ होल लॉट ऑफ सिलेबस डिजिटल सिग्नल प्रोसेसिंग का. So I am moving my presentation forward. Speech recognition, right? What it does. What does speech recognition do? It recognizes words from a given speech audio, and it provides your voice transcriptions, right? Dictation apps. अगर आपने Gmail में देखा है, Gmail में you can use your voice to type your email. I guess Telegram में ये feature है, you can use your voice to type. In fact, if you have Google Keyboard on your phone, अगर Android phone use करते हो आप, तो आपके phone में ये feature होगा in which you can just use your voice to type whatever you want. Right? There are voice commands, voice assistants. We have talked about them already. And then there's how speech recognition actually works. So आपका जो speech होता है, right? Say for example, अभी हम देखते हैं, मैंने बोला hello या मैंने बोला good morning. से मैंने बोला good morning, right? अगर मैं good morning बोल रहा हूँ, then how is it going to be recognized by a computer? So computer क्या करेगा? सबसे पहला चीज वो मेरे voice का feature vector निकालेगा, right? मेरे voice का जैसे मैंने अभी दिखाया था स्पेक्ट्रोग्राम, मेल स्पेक्ट्रोग्राम, राइट? वो सब बनेगा. उसको यूज करके वी विल बी जनरेटिंग MFCCs. So MFCCs are basically mil frequency system, and MFCCs are actually MFCC is actually the process, or what you would say. These are the features which are coming out of your voice, right? So जब मैं गुड मॉर्निंग बोलता हूँ, तो गुड मॉर्निंग जब मैं बोलता हूँ, मैं अगर 10 बार बोलूंगा ना, उसका थोड़ा थोड़ा चेंजेस होगा, राइट? एंड दीज कैन बी कैप्चर्ड बाय यूजिंग MFCCs. सो MFCC यूज करके हमने फीचर्स निकाले. एंड देन देयर इज एन अकाउस्टिक मॉडल विच इज बेसिकली अ जनरलाइज्ड मॉडल जो बोलता है कि गुड मॉर्निंग बोलने का एक सर्टेन तरीका है, राइट? जब आप गुड मॉर्निंग बोलोगे तो ऐसा नहीं है कि गुड मॉर्निंग बोलने के लिए आप गुड नाइट बोलोगे, राइट? दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू मैच. अगर आप नाइट बोलोगे तो वो नाइट में जाएगा, वो मॉर्निंग में नहीं जाएगा, राइट? दैट्स व्हाई अकाउस्टिक मॉडल क्या करता है, इट गिव्स अ जनरलाइज्ड फीचर वेक्टर जिसमें ये डिफाइंड है कि जब भी गुड मॉर्निंग बोला जाएगा देयर इज अ सर्टेन वेव फॉर्म विच विल फॉर्म. जनरल एक वेव फॉर्म होगा, वो वेव फॉर्म डिफरेंट होगा फ्रॉम गुड नाइट, वो वेव फॉर्म डिफरेंट होगा फ्रॉम एनी अदर वर्ड, राइट? दैट इज व्हाट द अकाउस्टिक मॉडल कंटेन्स. एंड देन देयर इज द लैंग्वेज मॉडल, राइट? सो लैंग्वेज मॉडल क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है? बिकॉज any person can be speaking in any language. So how do you recognize कि उसने किस language में क्या बोला? For example, if I say hello और उसका speech recognition करना है, और अगर मैंने language model English का feed किया हुआ है, तो उसमें output क्या आएगा? HELLO, right? लेकिन अगर मैंने उसमें हिंदी का language model feed करा हुआ है, तो उसमें क्या आएगा? ह लिख के आएगा, ऊपर में ए, and then ल, and then o, right? तो लैंग्वेज मॉडल क्यों चाहिए? आपको किस लैंग्वेज में उसको रिकॉग्नाइज करना है. आपने उसको अगर स्पेनिश में रिकॉग्नाइज करना है, तो यू विल हैव टू पुट द स्पेनिश लैंग्वेज मॉडल देयर. स्पेनिश लैंग्वेज मॉडल क्या करेगा? इट विल डिफाइन कि कौन कौन से वर्ड्स वैलिड है इस लैंग्वेज में, क्या ग्रामर वैलिड है इस लैंग्वेज में, राइट? आप कुछ भी नहीं बोल सकते हो, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू गेट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड. दैट इज व्हाई आपको चाहिए कि एक लैंग्वेज मॉडल डिफाइन किया जाए जिसमें यू हैव द वोकैबुलरी ऑफ दैट लैंग्वेज. उस लैंग्वेज में क्या ग्रामर यूज किया जा सकता है, उसका लीगल जो क्या क्या अलाउड है, वो सारी चीजें रहेंगी लैंग्वेज मॉडल में. एंड एट द सेम टाइम इट विल आल्सो कंटेन ऑल द इट विल कंटेन अ मैपिंग विद इन जनरल विद द अकाउस्टिक मॉडल, राइट? एक अकाउस्टिक मॉडल के साथ उसका एक वीक मैपिंग रहेगा, सो दैट गुड मॉर्निंग का जो जनरल जो ऑडियो फॉर्म बनता है उसको मैच कराया जाएगा गुड मॉर्निंग वर्ड्स के साथ, राइट? सो दिस इज व्हाट द लैंग्वेज मॉडल हैज। एंड जब मुझे मेरा वॉइस मिल गया, वॉइस को एक जनरल मैपिंग मिल गया एंड देन एक एग्जैक्ट मैपिंग मिल गया लैंग्वेज के साथ, इन तीनों को यूज करके वी डू अ हाइपोथेसिस सर्च विच इज नॉट वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स। हाइपोथेसिस सर्च करने के बाद you find the recognized words, right? All simple. Let's see this in details. There's the audio wave. It is broken down into a spectrogram, right? This is how a spectrogram looks like. It's actually the same waveform divided by frequencies over time, right? And then the residual CNN is used to generate a feature maps, right? The last feature maps which you see is the MFCCs which I was talking about. ये पहला जो part है feature vector, that is what this is doing. And then this is feature maps broken down, like they are fed into bidirectional LSTMs. LSTMs are used for what? LSTMs are used for time series data so that you can make predictions right now based on what has happened in the past, right? So LSTMs are used for that. अगर मैं hello बोलने जा रहा हूँ, then hello को predict करने के लिए you also need the data of जब मैंने hello का H बोला था and then जब मैंने hello का O बोला, right? इसके बीच का सारा data आपको चाहिए. That is actually a time series data, and that's why an LSTM is the best at doing this. Bidirectional LSTM में जाने के बाद it goes into a very simple linear softmax, and that produces the probability of each character per time step, right? जब मैंने hello बोलना start किया था, starting में मेरा H बोलने का probability सबसे ज़्यादा है, मेरा O बोलने का probability कम है, और जब मैंने hello को end किया उस समय पे O बोलने का probability सबसे ज़्यादा है, H बोलने का सबसे कम है, राइट? सो इस तरह से एक टाइम स्टेप के अकॉर्डिंग कौन सा कैरेक्टर बोला गया उसका एक मैपिंग बनता है, एंड देन दिस इज पुट इनटू डिकोडिंग, ऑल्दो मैंने बहुत सिंपल पे डिकोडिंग लिख दिया है, बट देयर इज अ वेरी स्मार्ट एल्गोरिथम व्हिच इज यूज्ड हियर, which is used to determine कि बोला क्या गया, and that gives you the output, right? And yeah, this is what happens when you get your voice recognition program wrong. Anyway, speech generation, finally, what it does, synthesizes speech from text. Siri, Alexa, ये सब जो आपको response देते हैं, that is done by generating speech, synthesizing speech from text, right? And voice assistance में use होता है automated announcement systems. Automated announcement systems का कोई example कोई दे सकता है? कहीं पे सुना है automated announcement system? Has anyone heard of it? कोई गया है ट्रेन स्टेशन पे? कोई गया है ट्रेन स्टेशन में? ये गाड़ी नंबर XYZ इतने घंटे लेट है, उतने घंटे लेट है, वो ऑटोमेटेड अनाउंसमेंट सिस्टम है, राइट? वो डेटाबेस में जो एंट्री पढ़ते जाते हैं उसके बेसिस पे वो अनाउंस करते जाता है, वो कोई बैठ के अनाउंस नहीं कर रहा है. अगर वो बैठ के अनाउंस करे तो वो 24 आवर्स में थक नहीं जाएगा? एक ही वॉइस पूरे दिन चले जा रही है, पूरे साल चले जा रही है. वो ऑटोमेटेड अनाउंसमेंट सिस्टम है, ये बहुत टाइम से था और बहुत ही वियर्ड है. इंडिया में थोड़ा रोबोटिक टाइप का वॉइस आता है वो, बट देन वॉइस असिस्टेंट्स गूगल, सीरी, ये सब जो बोलते हैं वो सब बहुत ही नेचुरल आता है. मे बी इन फ्यूचर वी कैन यूज देम. Yeah, this is how it works, right? There is some input text, say for example good morning, उसको टेक्स्ट प्रोसेसिंग यूज करके उसका फोनीम निकाला जाता है. ना व्हाट इज अ फोनीम? मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ व्हेन आई से हेलो, राइट? आप लोगों ने डिक्शनरी देखी है? डिक्शनरी, ऑक्सफोर्ड डिक्शनरी किसी ने देखा है? किसी के पास है ऑक्सफोर्ड डिक्शनरी? वेरी नाइस. लाइक स्कूल में सबके पास होता था स्कूल टाइम पे, राइट? स्कूल टाइम पे सबको बोला जाता था डिक्शनरी से पढ़ो कैसे बोलते हैं इस वर्ड को. तो डिक्शनरी में क्या होता है, वो वर्ड लिखा रहता है, उसके जस्ट बगल में एक छोटा सा सिंबल्स अजीब बने रहता है, वो होता है कैसे प्रोनाउंस करते हैं इसको, राइट? वो प्रोनाउंस करने के लिए इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में ही उन्होंने आई गेस 30 या 40 अलग अलग सिंबल्स यूज करे हुए हैं, राइट? ऑल्दो 26 लेटर्स होते हैं इंग्लिश में, लेकिन वहां पे उन्होंने 30 या 40 यूज करे हुए हैं, बिकॉज आप अलग अलग आवाजें निकाल सकते हो. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल जब मैं हेलो बोलता हूँ तो एल ओ जो है ना, एल ओ, वो मैं एल और ओ तो नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, आई एम जस्ट सेइंग लो, राइट? हेलो का जो लास्ट पार्ट है उसको मैं एल ओ नहीं पढ़ रहा हूँ, मैं उसको बस लो बोल रहा हूँ. इनफैक्ट व्हेन आई एम सेइंग हेलो, then there's hey and there's low. There are exactly just 2 syllables, right? हम लोगों ने इंग्लिश में जब पढ़ा होगा इसको syllable बोलते हैं, राइट? इंग्लिश में जब आप पोएम्स पढ़ते थे, आपके इंग्लिश टीचर ने बताया होगा, देखो syllable रिपीट हो रहा है तो इसको राइमिंग कर दिया, राइट? अगर मैंने जैक और मैक एक साथ बोला तो वो राइमिंग हो गया. वाई? बिकॉज लास्ट में वो जो ए सी के वाला पार्ट है ना, एक्ट, वो रिपीट हो रहा है, दैट सिलेबल इज रिपीटिंग. वो जो syllable है उसको phoneme बोलते हैं. That is the smallest individual component of sound which a person can make from their mouth. ठीक है? A phoneme is the smallest individual component of sound जो मैं अपने मुंह से बना सकता हूँ. If I say a is a phoneme, right? अगर मैं उसको आगे लेके जाऊँ to say something like uh, you know, say koi word which I'm not getting right now. Yeah, so that would be just a part of that word. उस word को broke down कर सकते हैं phonemes में. So when I say hello, hey is a phoneme, low is a phoneme. ये दोनों को join कर दिया बन गया hello, right? So when you have the input text, तो input text को text processing करके phoneme में convert किया जाता है सबसे पहले. That is where we determine कि अभी क्या हम लोग को आवाज निकालनी है. Hey निकालनी है, hello निकालनी है, right? Hey and low निकालनी है, hey and low निकालनी है. उसको फिर acoustic model में डाला जाता है. So this acoustic model produces the smell spectrogram corresponding to hey and low. वो hey, low इन दोनों को join करके smell spectrogram produce करेगा. Smell spectrogram को फिर neural vocoder में डाला जाता है. Vocoder क्या करता है? वो इन दोनों spectrograms को match करा के उसको join करता है. Because किसी ने जब recording किया होगा तो उसने hey अलग बोला, low अलग बोला, right? उन दोनों के बीच में एक gap है. वो gap सही से नहीं आएगा until it is joined in a natural way. जो ऑडियो वेव बन रहा है इन लोग का, से फॉर एग्जांपल जब मैंने हे बोला ऑडियो यहाँ पे खत्म हुआ और जब मैंने लो बोला मेरा ऑडियो यहाँ से स्टार्ट हुआ, इन दोनों को ज्वाइन कराना पड़ेगा, अदरवाइज वॉइस सही से नहीं आएगी. दैट इज व्हाट द न्यूरल वोकोडर डज. न्यूरल वोकोडर इन दोनों का वॉइस को नेचुरली ज्वाइन करता है सो दैट जब मैं हेलो बोलूंगा एंड उसका जो कन्वर्जन होगा स्पीच लाइक टेक्स्ट टू स्पीच तो वो ज्वाइन होकर निकलेगा एंड दैट विल कम आउट इन अ रियलिस्टिक मैनर. This is a much more detailed there is a much more detailed diagram of what is actually happening. Text को text analysis speech database से उठा के you're extracting the features, syntactic parsing, and then you create the you use an HMM to generate what is supposed to be the MEL spectrogram. MEL spectrogram को फिर से speech database से match करा के we generate the audio format, right? And these are some links which you can use to explore how speech recognition or speech generation works. And yeah, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, like very quickly, let's take some questions. Abhinandan, I do have time, right, for this? Do I have like 5-10 minutes to take questions? किसी के पास कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, सबको समझ में आ गया?
किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन तो अभी
I'll have to thank Abhinandan for a very smart audience. सबको एक बार में सब कुछ समझ में आ गया. Okay, do we have questions or should I move forward?
किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो पूछ सकता है.
Okay, yeah, could you please type it maybe? That would be great because मुझे वैसे
Thank you, Anurag, for the great insight. So,
let me finish this. Okay, in case we do not have any questions, so yeah, this is where you can find me. A number of places, but the word is Experian, right? Google kar lo, kuch bhi kar lo. That is how you will find me. Thanks a lot. And finally, I'll just quickly go back to my first slide. This is where you can find this presentation, xp.dev/gdg Jammu audio AI. This is where you can find my presentation. If you want to take a photo, you could do that, or else I'll just send this video. I'll just send this link to Abhinandan, and he can share it with you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Great audience. Like, really loved it. Yeah. Thank you, Abhinandan.
get over from your time. We are going to have a break for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, we will start our next session. And after that, we have number of gifts for you. We'll distribute those gifts, and then also we have a lunch break. In lunch break, we will give some sort of refreshment to all the students. Thank you so much. रहने दो, ठीक है, आपको ठीक है। ये फीड भी हमारी फीड क्यों नहीं आ रही है? So let's welcome our next speaker. He's Rita from GDG Jammu. He's a human development expert and he's one of the kindest person I have met to meet. And he is also helping us in building the community in Jammu. So let's welcome Rita.
Hi, yeah, I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So let me share my screen. I guess it's visible to you all, right? Is it visible? Yeah. So, hi everyone. This is Richard. I'm a Google developer expert for web technology and Firebase, and also I'm a tech lead for Acprop, and I'm leading GDG Jammu community in Punjab region. So today in this talk, I'm going to talk about the Firebase and how we can build web applications with the help of Firebase. So, like in the first part, I will talk about the basic web fundamentals, like how we can create a web applications, what are the basic fundamentals, and then we'll talk about the Firebase, like what type of services or the products you can use for building web applications using Firebase. So let's get started. So if I talk about the website, like first, like anyone can create a web solution. So you can build web solutions with the help of website. Website is just like as a collections of web page. So you can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. Like if you want to, let's say, build your structure of your web page, then you can use HTML. And if you want to design your website, then you can use CSS. Or if you want to make more interactive web page, then you can use the concept of JavaScript. So this is how you can create a website, which is like it's a combinations of web pages, and each website have their specific URL, and you can access those URL over the net. And let's say you have created a website with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. Now you need to test your website. So then we have a browser. So browser is just like as a computer software where you can install this computer software in your operating system, and then you can access the website. So like each browser have their specific rendering engine that will render your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code into the UI part. And this is how you are able to see the website over the browser. Then we have a third terminology is called as server. So server is just like a specific computer which is specifically designed for processing the request. Like here we can upload our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, and we can connect that particular computer with the help of network. And when we call the IP of that particular network, that will be accessible as a website. So this is a basic three terminologies. Like website is just like as a web page, we can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then we can test our website over the browser. And if you want to make your website more accessible from different network or the different devices, then we need a server. And in the market, we have a three types of server. Let's say a web server and the email server and a file server. So whenever you are accessing of web pages over the network, so there will be a web server. Or if you are like sending or receiving a mail over the network, then there will be an email server. And if you are downloading or uploading a file over the networks, then we have a email server. Sorry, file server. So this is basic three fundamentals in the web technologies. And then we have another, let's say, the terminology is called as database. So database is just like as a set. It's again a software which is basically designed to process the request, like where we can easily perform CRUD operations. Means we can create data, we can read the data, we can update the data, and we can delete the data in an easy way. So database is just like as a software where we can store a data in an organized way. And in the market, we have two type of database, like structured database and unstructured database. So if I talk about structured database, where we have a structure, like we can store the data in terms of structure. Maybe it can be a table format, where we can have a tables means the rows and column. So in structured database, there might be possibility you mainly need to work on the MySQL database. And then if I talk about unstructured database, where we don't need have such kind of schemas, like maybe textual data or maybe machine generated data or the human data. So here in unstructured database, here in the corporate, we mainly need to work on the MongoDB as a database. So this is the main terminologies. And like first we have created a website, then we can test our website over the browser, and we can port our HTML, CSS, JavaScript code over the server, and this is how my website will be accessible from any locations or any devices or any network. So then we have a multiple paths like you can start your career in the web technologies like be as a front end developer or the back end developer or maybe you can be a full stack developer. So if I talk about specifically for the front end developer, like here you need to mainly work on the front end technologies like you have a data, you need to create a website interface with the help of HTML, CSS and the JavaScript part. And if you want to start your career in the front end technologies or the front end developer, like here is a roadmap. Like first, you can go with the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. And once you are able to create your website or sample web applications with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you can go with the front end framework like or the libraries like Angular, React, or the Vue or the Bootstrap. So Angular is basically designed by the Google team. Vue is also is created by the X Googler, and similarly React, which is not a framework, which is a JavaScript library, which is designed by the Facebook team. So like this is a roadmap for the front end developer. Mainly you have to create a web interface with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part. Then we have a backend development. So backend development is means mainly you have to work on the server side. Means in server where we have a web server and the database. So you need to create a business logic in terms of REST APIs, and for right like starting your career in the backend development, then you can use like you can use any programming language. But if I talk about the most popular programming language, like you can create a business logic or the backend logic with the help of JavaScript, or you can use Node.js. Or if you are working on a PHP, then you can also use PHP languages for writing your business logic. Same with Python, and then we have its like frameworks or the libraries that you can use. Like if you are working on JavaScript or the Node.js, then you can use Express.js. And similarly, if you are working on a PHP, then you can use Flask or Django for making robust, scalable backend business logic. And similarly, we have another framework like Ruby on Rails, and then we have Laravel. And as a backend developer, we need to work on the database part. So then you can start working on the MongoDB and MySQL. So then we have a full stack development. So full stack development is it's a combination as a front end technologies as well as the back end development technologies. So you can be a mean stack developer or main stack developer. So where we are just changing the front end framework like A for Angular and R for React. So like this is a basic idea about the like web fundamentals. Like if you have an idea about the building website or the web applications, be as a front end developer or maybe as a back end developer, then you can build any solutions and then you can start your career. It's totally up to you what type of technologies you can select and what type of platform or the solutions you are building. So now, let's say you are in the college and you have an idea about, let's say, XYZ startup, and yeah, so you are a little bit confused about the startup, like from where I can start, like what type of technology I can select, or what type of database I can select. Let's say I can select MongoDB or I can select MySQL database. So there is a lot of confusion, but somehow you have decided the technical stack for the front end, technical stack for the back end, and the database part. Like maybe you are like you have selected as a MongoDB database, then you need to write a lot of amount of code, and that there might be a possibilities like means there may be possibilities related to managing the infrastructure, managing the security part for the backend, or managing the database integrations or management. There is a lot of advantage challenges for me as a developer. So that's why Firebase came into the picture. So Firebase is it's again a unified platform for the developers where uh, we as a developer can use Firebase. We don't need to worry about the backend part. We don't need to worry about the managing the database part. You can use Firebase. So with the help of Firebase, you can build fast, scalable web applications or any solutions without managing the infrastructure. Like Firebase is providing a lot of backend services. You just need to integrate those services in our front end part. So that's why Firebase is a mission to help the developers succeed. And yeah, one of the best thing about Firebase, let's say if you are working on a web platform, then you can use Firebase. Or if you are working on a mobile application development platform, let's say iOS, Flutter, or Android, then you can use Firebase. Or if you are working on a C++ or the game development platform, let's say Unity, then you can use Firebase. So as I mentioned, like Firebase is providing a lot of services. We don't need to worry about the managing the database part or managing the security code implementation. So Firebase is providing a lot of services. So these services is categorized into the three main part. So first one is build better applications. Then we have improve your app quality, and the third one is grow and engage your user. So first one is build better applications. So let's say I'm creating a website where I can add a module, let's say login or logout functionality or sign up functionality. So in general way, I just need to focus on the database part. I just need to write a business logic for the API integrations for the login or the backend part. But if I'm using Firebase, we just need to integrate authentication module, and where we have some set of functions, we just need to call those functions and that's it. So we can easily integrate authentications part in our website. So similarly, like build better applications having a lot of services, like you can host your website, you can use Firebase as a database, you can write custom business logic with the help of cloud functions, you can store images file with the help of cloud storage. So once you have created applications with the help of build better applications, then you can focus on the improvement, like how you can improve the app quality. So then we have a services like Crash Analytics, Performance Monitoring, Test Labs, and the app distributions. So Crash Analytics is just like you will get the real-time cache report about your applications. So similarly, you will get a test lab, like whenever you are working on a mobile application development. So we just need to test our mobile applications on different devices. So here, what you can do, you can go to the test lab and then you can select the different devices, and then you can upload your like applications, and then you can test your applications with the help of test lab. So once you have built your applications and improve your quality, now we can grow and engage a user with the help of grow and engage services. Here you will get the analytics report about your applications, like how many users are visiting your website in a day, or maybe what type of countries or the state the users are coming. So here we can get the analytics report about the user. And then we have a predictions. You can send push notifications with the help of cloud messaging. So there are multiple services you can use inside the Firebase. So now, like as Firebase is providing a lot of services, now specifically I talk about the web platform. Let's say I'm creating a web application. So what type of services I can use for building web applications or the website with Firebase? So in Firebase, like you can use these services, like you can use Firebase Authentications. Like whenever you are creating a website, so you can add a authentications module. Like you can add a features like login with Google or login with Twitter or maybe login with email and password. So you can apply these kind of functionality with the help of Firebase Authentications. Or you can use Firebase database, like here in the Firebase we have a two database, Cloud Firestore and the real-time database. Or if you have an images file or the PDF file, then you can use cloud storage services. Or if you want to host your website, then you can use Firebase Hosting. Or if you want to host your custom business logic, then you can use cloud functions. And then we have our multiple services. So I'll deep dive each services in one by one. So let's start with the Firebase authentications. So let's say like I wanted to create a website where I need to add a functionality. Let's say user can create their account, user can log in with their account. So in general way, we need to write a lot of business amount logic in terms of, like you can use any business programming language for the backend, like you can use JavaScript or PHP, and we need to manage the database part where you need to store the user credential. But if I talk about the authentications, Firebase authentications, so Firebase authentication is providing a set of functionality. We just need to call those functions and we can directly call, like simplify like the authentication part. And like Firebase authentication work with a third party service provider, like you can easily add a module like in our website, like you can authenticate your user with Facebook, you can authenticate your user with Google, Twitter, LinkedIn. There are multiple services. Even you can authenticate user with the help of mobile number. Like where user need to put their mobile number, then you will get the OTP and then you can verify. or authenticate the user. So this is the simple example. Like let's say I'm creating a website here, and here in the website I need to like create a module for, let's say, functionality for the create or sign up page where user can put their email ID and the password, and then once the user will click on this create account, the user account will be created. So this is a simple example like how Firebase is creating an easy impact for the developers. So like in JavaScript, where we can create a variables with the help of let keywords. So here we have created a variable email and password. And then here we are using Firebase. So here we have a Firebase. Inside Firebase, I'm using authentication module. So that's why I have written dot auth. So inside authentications, we have a multiple functions. We just need to call those functions accordingly. Let's say I wanted to create accounts, then we have to call the function's name is create user with email and password. Let's say I wanted to log in account with the Google, then we have a some set of functions. We just need to invoke those functions. So let's say create user with email and password. This is a predefined functions, and inside these functions, we just need to pass two parameter email and password, and that's it. So this is a single line of code. You can perform authentications. Like you don't need to worry about the backend part, or you don't need to worry about the database part where you just need to store the credential about the users, the email ID, password. So like all it will be taken by the Firebase things. Like you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. And this is like a firebase.auth.create user with email and password. This will work as a JavaScript promises, and you can handle with the help of then and catch block. So it's a four line of code. But if you are going for the traditional approach, then you need to write a lot of amount of code for the security. First, you need to work on the database part. Then you need to write a logic for the backend, maybe in a PHP or the Node.js. Then, but if I'm using Firebase, I just need to write just four lines of code, and then I can easily authenticate the user. Then in like as I mentioned, like if I talk about in the web development, so we have a database. So as I mentioned, like in the market we have a two type of database: structured database and unstructured database. So similarly in Firebase you can use unstructured database. So unstructured database is cloud firestore. So you can store unstructured data in a cloud firestore. It's a NoSQL database where you can store the data in terms of uh, collections, documents, and the records. And one of the best thing about Cloud Firestore, like it will provide offline support. Let's say if you are out of the network and you are storing some data in the applications, it will store temporarily, but once you are connected with the network, it will sync with the other database part. And yeah, and then I'll give you the example like about the Cloud Firestore, which is again a NoSQL database. So no, in NoSQL database, we can store the data in terms of collections. Each collections can have a multiple documents. In each documents can have a multiple fields. So like first we can create a reference. So let's say I've created a reference. Let's say I've written Firebase because I'm using Firebase, and inside Firebase I'm using Cloud Firestore. So that's why I've written Firebase.firestore. So once we have created a database reference, then we can define the collections. So on which collections I wanted to add the document or the record or the content. So here I have written db.collections. So here inside collections, we can create a collections if it is not there. So here I have defined the collections name is user. And for adding a data into that particular collections, then we need to call add method. Let's say I wanted to get some data, means to read the data from the database part, then we need to call dot get method. For updating data, then we need to invoke update method. For deleting the data, we need to invoke delete method. So these are the predefined methods inside Cloud Functions. We just need to invoke. So here we have a db.collections.add, where basically I'm creating a documents inside the collections name is user. And again, this will work as a JavaScript promises, so you can handle with the help of then and catch block. So yeah, it's a small set of lines of code, and then you can build a large scale web applications with the help of Cloud Firestore. Then we have a real-time database. So like Cloud Firestore is morely usable whenever you are creating a large-scale web applications where we have a lot of schema, where we have a lot of transactions, uh, different data type of layers. Then you can use the Cloud Firestore. But sometimes you are creating a lightweight applications, then you can use Firebase real-time database, which is mainly suitable for creating a lightweight applications where if we have in simple data and there will be a no data modeling, there will be a no data layers, then you can use Firebase real-time database and you can store the data in terms of JSON format. And again, it's a truly serverless architecture. Like you don't need to worry about the managing the database part. It will automatically handled by the Google side. And yeah, so this is the simple code. Let's say if you wanted to add some data into the real-time database, then first we need to write Firebase, and inside Firebase we are using Firebase real-time database. So here we have used database, and then inside database we can create a reference. So I have created a reference name is data, and inside data we can provide call the method. Let's say I wanted to add some data, then we can use that method. Let's say I wanted to delete some data, then we need to invoke delete method. So this is a simple code. Like this is how you can perform the transactions over the real-time database. Then let's say although like Cloud Firestore and the real-time database is preferable for storing a data in terms of textual format. But sometimes you wanted to store the image file or PDF file or let's say media file in the database part. Then you can use Cloud Storage. So Cloud Storage, you can let's say you have created applications where user can change the profile picture. User need to go to the edit profile sections part and then user need to upload their profile picture. So you can upload and store this profile picture in the cloud storage. So cloud storage again, it's a like it's built at Google scale. You can trust it. You don't need to worry about the storing capacity and the management of the file directory. It will be handled by the Google, and they are providing us some sort of functions. You just need to invoke those functions for providing a functionality like uploading a file or collecting a file from the cloud file storage. And also you can provide a securities like these files will be accessible from this kind of user, so you can provide a security with the help of Firebase security rules. So like this is a simple example. Like let's say I have created a web applications and I wanted to upload my file over the cloud Firestore or the storage. Then you can use this is a method you need to invoke. Method name is .put method. So inside put method you can put the file. So here we have a file, and this will work as a JavaScript promises, and then you can handle with the help of then and caps block. So now, then we have a services like Firebase Hosting. So whenever you are creating a website, so you need to host your website. So Firebase Hosting you can use like where with the help of Firebase Hosting you can host your website, specifically the static website. Like you can store or let's say host your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript static page with the help of Firebase Hosting. And it's a free of cost, and you will get free SSL certificate. And this is very fast because all the data will be stored in the SSD drives. And yeah, and you can deploy your website within a single line of command Firebase. And then sometime let's say you need to write your custom business logic. For writing a custom
Thank you for your time.
Hi.
So thank you, Will. And
So yeah, I'm back. So like overview, like if I talk about the building web applications with the help of Firebase, so you can use Firebase Authentications where you can authenticate your user with the help of Firebase Authentication. Or if you want to store some data in terms of database, then we have two options: uh, Firebase Cloud Firestore and the real-time database. And let's say if you wanted to store some media file, then you can use Firebase Cloud Firestore, the storage. And if you want to host your website, then you can use Firebase Hosting. And if you want to host or write your custom business logic, then you can use the concept of cloud functions. And then we have a extension, and then we have a Firebase Cloud Messaging for sending a push notifications to the n number of devices or the users. And yeah, so yeah, you can build anything with the help of web and the Firebase. You just need to invoke those services and then you can work on it. So yeah, you can build anything. So now let's create a web application. So let's say if you want to create a web application, so let's say I wanted to create a web applications where we can create a web applications for the event registration page where user can go and then they can put their entries like the email id, mobile number, and the name of the stream, the domain. So you can create a web applications where you can use this web application for the event registrations. So first what you can do, you can create a html page where you can provide the fields like the email ID, the mobile number. So you can put these configuration the fields with the help of HTML pages. So first we have created a page. Then what you can do, you can provide a Firebase authentication as a services. So means only authenticated user can fill this like registration form. Like you can provide a functionality like first user need to authenticate with Google account, or maybe the first user need to sign up the account and then they can able to see the form for the registrations. And once you have applied the Firebase authentications, then user need to fill the form and then they have to like we need to store that data, email id, the configurations, so we can store this data into the cloud firestore. So once you have stored the data, attendees data into the Cloud Firestore, then you can call Cloud Functions. So Cloud Function is just like where you can send a confirmation mail, like thank you for the registration, and we will share the more update and announcement about the events in maybe upcoming weeks. So you can create this kind of web applications. And once you have created this web applications with the help of uh, like authentication, storage, and cloud functions, now you can host your website or the web applications with the help of Firebase hosting. So this is a simple example like this. This is how you can use Firebase in your community or maybe in your college. And yeah, so yes, you can do anything with the help of Firebase. Yeah, it's totally up to you. And for me, Firebase is just like पहले इस्तेमाल करे फिर विश्वास करे. It's totally up to you. Just need to focus on the services, like what type of services you wanted to implement in the Firebase. And yeah, to know more about Firebase, you just need to visit the link firebase.google.com. Here we have a documentation and the products, so you can navigate to the product and documentation. Yes, Firebase is used by the many companies like Trivago, Lyft, Citrix, Atlassian. There are multiple companies who are using Firebase in many ways. Like some of the companies are using the database, some of the companies are using the authentication part. It's totally up to you what type of services you wanted to use and build solutions with the help of Firebase. And yeah, to know more about the informations, like if you want to start your career with Firebase, so you can follow the Firebase documentations. You just need to visit the official website firebase.google.com and then you can navigate to the documentations. And also I have written a lot of articles related to Firebase, like you can just visit the just go to the medium.com and just type my name, you will get the documentations or the articles related to Firebase with individual services. And also I have a sorry, so also there is a like code labs you can use you can just navigate to the link like bit.ly/codelab101, where we have written articles like how we can create a simple web applications with the help of Firebase. And I also have a YouTube channel. You can check out the YouTube channel where I have like made a videos of individual services like how we can use authentications database part for creating a web applications. So yeah, and yeah, if you have any questions, so you can ask your questions. Yeah, I'm open for the questions.
Do you have any question? Anyone? I
Yep,
think we
no
should
sure.
find out.
Yeah, yeah, so it's time to leave.
Interesting talk.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you so much, and see you in person events. And thank you, GDG Jammu team, for having me for IO Extended. Yeah. Wish you all the best for future events.
Same to you.
Yep.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Bhakti Director ma'am, Dr. Meenakshi Gill ma'am, faculty members of Kathua campus, faculty members of GDG Kathua, Government Degree College Women Kathua, UIET, and my dear students. So we are starting the valedictory session of this one-day program on Google I/O Extended 2022. I welcome you all again here. May I now request Dr. Meenakshi Gill, Rector of campus, to present the tokens to our experts, Mr. Abhinandan Trilokia, Mr. Jatin Sharma, and Mr. Vanshu Behra. Ma'am, please. Thank you so much. Now I request Bharti Director Dr. Meenakshi Gillam ma'am to please address the audience. Please.
Thank you, Florence. Head of the Department of MCA Department, Dr. Saurabh Shastri, faculty members of the MCA Department of the campus, faculty members of the MBA Department of the campus, faculty members from different colleges of the region, students of our campus and students from the colleges. First of all, this is the first time that I am interacting with you formally. But let me tell you that I know what is happening in the NCA. I will be focusing more on the NCA department of the campus today. And I know that very wonderful programs have been organized by NCA department from time to time, even during COVID. In fact, we were able to do a lot more during COVID because we could invite faculty and do things online as well. By now, all of you must have learned that something from COVID. We are learning it at the stage, but you are in a way fortunate that some of the good things that emerged out of COVID you learned so young in life. And one of those things in your academic career would be that how important it is to work online, study online, read online, give examinations online, get evaluated online. So there are lots of advantages. So those advantages, this MCA department has tried that even after the face-to-face classes have started, we are still depending on blended mode. And today's program, you would see, would not be possible if we were not depending on blended mode. So you are students of computer science and whether from colleges or from our campus, I don't need to tell you, but you know about the importance of blended learning and online learning, and this campus here really focuses on both the aspects of face-to-face learning as well as online learning and blended learning. And this is not just one of the programs. When Dr. Saurabh Shastri talks to you, I will request him to tell you about various programs that we have held throughout the year, even during the COVID times. So you will get an idea of what all is happening here. And also, let me tell you that the MCA department of Kathua campus, in fact, takes lead amongst the various FCA departments of the region, including the state, I would say. The kind of things that are happening here, Dr. Saurabh will focus on them. The kind of programs we are offering, kind of collaborations we have entered into. In fact, such a small place has become a guiding light. Everybody, compliments me about the MCA department here. So that's in a way a good news for students who are studying in this region, because you have this option to join this campus. You've seen that infrastructure-wise, faculty-wise, what kind of a campus it is, and how we are, walking an extra mile and organizing faculty not only from the academic world but also from the corporate world. And I just attended some part of your session here, and I could see that how useful that is. Because ultimately, what you want to do after you have finished your graduation or your post-graduation, you want to start working, either work for someone or start your own setup, or work as an independent professional, independent consultant. So these are the 2-3 options that are before you. Either become an entrepreneur or start working in the corporate world, or work as an independent professional. And the session I attended, part of it, I thought that there can't be anything more useful for any of these 3 things, because A, you have to learn to deal with technology, use technology to your environment, your work environment, and also learn culture not only in terms of the national diversity but international diversity. You will be dealing with people, whether as customers, whether as vendors, whether as employees, from different parts of the world. So what I could see that how to handle languages, different languages, and through languages, how to reach out to different cultural groups within your organization, and how to use technology. So this session I found, whatever little I saw, I found it very, very useful. And of course, we have Mr. Abhinandan to thank him for this, and his team here, and also the team which was not present when we were giving online lectures, Mr. Venraj ji. And so you can see that how this small campus has organized such an event for you, where it is it's immaterial whether you are studying in Kathua College or you're maybe in Delhi. It doesn't matter, because whatever anyone can get sitting in a big town, big city, you can get it from this campus. And we try to do little things for our students. This is more for the college students. We try to make our students comfortable. We try to reach out to our students. So this little gesture you saw, just giving a small thing as a pen drive. So these are the little ways we try to make life easy for our students. And there are big ways also. I'm sure Dr. Saurabh will be talking about them. And I want to send good wishes, give my good wishes to all the students who are in the college, so try for their future academic endeavors, and to my own students, make best use of whatever is there, try to contribute whatever ways you are, and the most important way that I think you can contribute is by reaching out on your own also. The department and the campus organizes any kind of collaboration on your own also. You can reach out to the industry, do live projects, meet your teachers after your class teaching and learning hours are over, and work on extra projects, maybe even real-time projects. That's what I would like to see in this campus, real-time projects ultimately happening. So I wish you all the best, and I hope some of you join our campus in the future and take full advantage of the facilities and the infrastructure and the teachers and the collaborations that we are having. All the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. This is only your commitment that you came here to be part of this program. Otherwise, ma'am has a very important meeting at in Vice Chancellor Office, University of Jammu at 4 p.m. So thank you so much, ma'am, for coming and for encouraging the students of not only of Kathua campus, but the students of GDG Kathua, Women College, and the students of UIT. Students, now we have lunch break, and we have some refreshment for you. So let's join for the lunch. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Everyone. I'm Untitled Chapter, got my from GDG Jammu and got Android engineering. So, let me start with quick intro about myself. So, my journey started with the Cover Daily, which happened to be back in 2017, and that was my first developer event. I interacted with the many developers there at Google, and it was a nice changing experience for me. I at there I made and has been amazingly instead of working on the Android. So I am curious for the Android, and this is how my Android application is done. After that, I was selected for the GDG Jammu scholarship and earned the Android developer Nano degree. After acquiring a skill, so I tried to implement what I have learned and started finishing my application on Google Play Store. So, so as was started, I always started with the 100 downloads and move on to 1000 and just achieve the milestone of 10 million downloads. So during last 2 years, I have created an application and it went viral, and this is how my application just get viral. And I touched the 10 million download mark. So, so community plays an important role in our development, and I have learned many new things from the community event. So, and I used to participate in the many events created by the development community. I most of the time join virtually, and I always try to bring what I have learned. So it is a matter of time. Uh, there is no such thing like overnight success. You have to work for it, and you just have to keep repeating the process. Sometimes teams work, and sometimes does not. But the main thing matter is your motivation, and in the end of the race, you will achieve what you are trying to achieve. So this is why we are starting the Google Developer Automation. So in the hope of creating a difference in Jammu as well. Let's move on to the main topic of my presentation. So my topic is what's new in Android 13. So how many of you know the new Android version is coming to release? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. So this is the timeline of Android 13. So it started way back in February, and currently it is in the platform stability phase. So soon Android 13 will be released a stable update in the coming months. So this is right now is Android 13 beta 4 phase. So this is just an update. So if you're curious about trying the Android 13 beta, you can still try an Android 13 beta on your device. Just scan this QR code and you can enroll for the beta update. I will put on this slide for a second.
पीछे से नहीं होगा आगे आके स्कैन करना है एंड्रॉइड 13 का बीटा वाला
There is something restriction about the Android 13. Only eligible devices are able to receive the OTA update. But if you're still curious about trying the Android 13, you can try downloading the Android Studio and then download it from there. So if you are done, can we move forward? Okay. So what to expect in new Android? So there are many of privacy as well as productivity features. So we will talk about one by one, and we will start with the privacy feature. So the very first feature that introduced in the Android 13 is notification permission. As you all know, we used to have multiple apps and they always try to push the notification, and in the end of the day we receive critical notification. So in Android 13 we have introduced a new permission. So every application has to take the permission before sending the notification to you. So it is a welcome change in Android 13 and I am looking forward to it. And the next feature that is new nearby Wi-Fi permission. So during the COVID phase, you all know we used to share a file in the shared app and it asks for the location permission. But user always get confused about the how Wi-Fi is getting to location permission. So in Android 13, Google introduced the new permission for the Wi-Fi that is called nearby Wi-Fi. So application that target Android 13 simply have to use that permission instead of location permission. So it will also help in preventing the privacy of the user. And the new feature that introduced in Android 13 is photo picker. So as you all know, we are living in the world of social networking and we used to share, we can say photos, videos online. So we know that the applications that have access to media can be do many such things, many other things as well. So Google introduced a new library. It is tool using the Google Play services. So it doesn't need any storage solution. It simply get access of the media files only. So this is also a good step towards the privacy, maintaining the privacy of the user. So you can check out if you want to link. There is a developer.android.com. You can visit and try out this feature. So the main and feature of the Android version is privacy sandbox. So Google last 2 years from Google is working on a privacy sandbox. It is a framework that Google is designing for the application as well as for the mobile device. So it is a FTP which is runner, and there is some privacy preserving API that can beneficially both the user as well as the advertiser. So by maintaining the user privacy can trying to increase the monetization of the advertiser as well. So this is one of the new features, and if you want to know about what is Firebase Sandbox, you can simply visit firebasesandbox.com. They have a documentation and how this process is working, and it is open source, so you can see what it is going on. Let's move on to next. So another new feature that introduced in Android 13 is Task Manager. So we know we have in Android we have long set of button and there is a application in the app. So you can use to press the clear button and it get clear. But most of the time what happens is some applications still running in the background. and using the services mostly known as foreground services. So this is a new feature that Android 13 implemented. So you can access that task manager using the notification setting, quick setting, and you can simply tap on the icon and see the list of applications that are running. And if you want to, you can stop that services as well. So it will definitely help you to run the battery life, and you will get to know which type of application is running in the background. And that's the main private feature that was implemented in the Android 13. And let's talk about the productivity feature. So first productivity feature is the new copy-paste UI, and from the decade, this is the one thing that never changed in the Android. Starting from the development to the current Android 12, this is what still remains the same. So most of the time, when we copy the content, we don't know that it is copied or not. So in fact, in Android 13, introduced a new UI in which you, when you already copy a text from the Android device, it will show a pop-up, just like showing the animation. So you will get to know about that the content you separate copies, and you can share that content as well. And there is another stack for hiding sensitive content from that as well. So it is a welcome change, and the other productive feature that Android implemented is predictive back gesture. So right now in Android there are two types of navigation, that is three button navigation and a gesture navigation. So how many of you are using gesture navigation? Please raise your hand. So all of you, most of you are using gesture navigation, right? So what about the others? Are they using three home button navigation? Like they used to have three buttons and home button, back button, and this. Okay. So why are you still using the type of navigation? Any? What is it? Speak. Okay, so let's talk about myself. Even I still using the three button navigation because in the gesture navigation there is an international click, and most of the time even we don't want to back to the instant menu. By mistake we press the gesture and back to the instant. So it is get very irritating. But in Android 13 they have introduced the predictive back gesture. So whenever you try to back, it will give you a preview of what are the outcome of that action. So it is the welcome chain. So let's see how it works. Other thing that introducing Android 13 is theme app. So as you already know, in Android 12 there is a material use. So it is one of the notable feature of the Android 12. So this is new app theme app icon. Now app icon will also be personalized using themes of your device. So it is a personalization theme. And the second last productive feature is the better support for the monthly language users. So as for India, we used to speak Hindi, and most of the time we use application in English and some application in regional language. So in Android 13, Android is a new platform API, so that we can set a different language for a different application as well. So this is another feature of Android 13. And the last feature of Android 13 is better support for the tablet and the large scale device like Android TV as well. So you optimize the UI and so that you can use the space better and do better multitasking as well. So these are the essential productive feature introduced in the Android 13. And bonus content for you if you are interested in knowing what is currently the best specific for the Android. So this is the application backed by the Google itself, and it is a open source application. You can scan the QR, see the code, how this application works, and we have a really good implementation of the application. So you get to introduce to how the application works in the real world. So if you want to try out the application, you can simply scan the QR and you get the data of the workspace. So I'm holding it.
If you want to scan this QR code, you can scan it now.
Okay, one thing. How many of you are interested in Android development? Raise your hand. Okay. Only 3, 4, 5. So, okay. So how many have started Android development or just simply interested in knowing how Android application works? Anyone? Are you simply interested in knowing how it works, or you wanting to do a feature in Android development? Okay. So you want to be Android developer, right? Have you tried to develop any Android application right now? No, just the beginning. First thing, if you want to try, I would suggest you just look at the code base. So one of the first things that you learn is reviewing the code and understanding the code how it works. It doesn't matter how many knowledge you have, you cannot build some other person code there. Difficult for you. So I would just little bit about it. Try to run it in your Android studio install and see how things work. It will get you better insight about how Android 13 and other features are used. So that's all my guys. So thank you everyone. If you still have any questions for us, please let me know.
अभी हमने एक थोड़ा सा ऑनलाइन मतलब जॉब में अभी सुना सेशन में उसी रिगार्डिंग थोड़ा सा क्विज होगा तो उसके बेसिस पे आपको डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होगी स्लाइडो की से आप गूगल पे सर्च करिए स्लाइडो फिर मैं क्लियर करता हूं आप लॉगिन वहां पे करके आ सकते हैं ये वेबसाइट का नाम है SLIDO स्लाइडो यहाँ पे आगे सब पेज पे एंड सब कौन कौन है अरे लेना कि नहीं यूज करते के जाना ना इंटरैक्टिव थोड़ा बहुत करो और आपने ये कोड एंटर कर लीजिए 596303 इसको टाइम लग रहा तो 596303 हॉटस्पॉट ट्राई करो फ्रेंड से ले लो किसी फ्रेंड से हॉटस्पॉट ले लीजिए
किसी और इशू आ
यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है 596303 आगे सारे अभी इस पे एंटर करवा दीजिए आगे करके इस तरह से आपको एक विंडो दिखेगा।
आप ट्राई करो, कोड इज 596303।
कोड सेम है, इस तरह का आपको दिखेगा। आपको अपना नाम एंटर करना है, क्या आपके नाम
596303।
हमारे पास अभी 60 यूजर्स हैं, तो देख लीजिए सारे। आज ये वाला हो रहा है आपको, इस तरीके का शो हो रहा है। इसको नहीं हो रहा है, इसको नहीं हो रहा है ये शो।
कोड इज 596303।
596303। Seven. ज्वाइन टाइम स्टार्ट करें। कुछ जर्नल इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं। हर क्वेश्चन 10 सेकंड्स का होगा तो गूगल करने का टाइम नहीं मिलेगा। तो थोड़ा सोच समझ के लगाएं। नहीं 10 सेकंड, 10 सेकंड। ओके कूल। क्वेश्चन आ गया
These questions are very easy for them.
Larry Page and Sergey किसका D2 है? अभी बोल रहा हूँ फोन की तरफ देखो यहाँ पे नहीं. Next question बोलो तो नीचे देखने start होगा. आ गया next question start.
Guys, hurry up, you have only 10 seconds for each and every question.
Yeah, good. Next question, जल्दी.
Hurry up, next question here.
Next question.
Next question is here, hurry up.
Next question करें. कोड वर्क वाला सेशन अटेंड किया होगा किसी को उसको पता होगा इसका आंसर. स्टार्टिंग में वो तभी इवेंट के रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन थे. क्या होगा टू का कॉल.